What if you could have a direct conversation with the deepest, wisest parts of your own soul? What if you could ask your dreams what they mean, dialogue with your inner demons, and receive guidance from the ancient figures that live in your unconscious? This sounds like the realm of mystics and shamans, but for Carl Jung, this was not a fantasy. It was a practical, powerful, and psychologically profound technique. He developed a method to do exactly this, a way to build a conscious bridge to the vast, unknown territory of the inner world. He called it active imagination. It is perhaps the most unique and potent tool in all of Jungian psychology. It is the art of consciously engaging with the unconscious, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant. Today, we will explore this remarkable method. This is not just a theoretical discussion. This is a practical guide to Jung's technique for having a direct dialogue with your own soul. Before we explore the how-to, we must first be very clear about what active imagination is not. It is crucial to dispel the common misconceptions. First, active imagination is not passive daydreaming. When we daydream, we are usually a passive observer of a pleasant, often wish-fulfilling fantasy. Our ego is on vacation. In active imagination, the ego is fully present, active, and engaged. It is a work of intense focus. Second, it is not just thinking about a problem. Thinking is the ego talking to itself, going over the same logical loops. Active imagination is about creating a space for a different, non-rational voice to emerge from the unconscious. You are listening for a voice other than your own. Third, it is not a form of hypnosis or trance where you lose consciousness. On the contrary, it requires you to be more conscious than ever. You remain aware that you are, in one sense, imagining, but you consciously choose to treat the experience as if it were real. It is this paradoxical attitude, holding both the symbolic and the real at the same time, that makes the technique so powerful. It is a disciplined, focused, and courageous act of engaging the imagination while keeping your conscious mind firmly at the helm. What is the purpose of this strange and powerful practice? Why would we want to talk to the figures in our own minds? The ultimate goal of active imagination is to build a bridge between the conscious ego and the unconscious self. It is the primary method for advancing the process of individuation. In our normal, waking lives, we are often cut off from the wisdom of our own depths. The unconscious tries to communicate with us through dreams, moods, and symptoms, but its symbolic language can be difficult to understand. Active imagination is a way to create a direct, two-way line of communication. It allows us to ask the unconscious questions and to receive answers, not in a logical sentence, but through the emergence of images, feelings, and symbolic dramas. By engaging in this dialogue, we begin to integrate the contents of the unconscious into our conscious awareness. We learn what our shadow wants, what our anima or animus needs, what the self is calling us toward. This integration heals the split in our psyche. It reduces the power of unconscious complexes to hijack our behavior. It transforms the unconscious from a feared and unknown territory into a known and trusted inner landscape, a source of guidance, creativity, and profound wisdom. A crucial word of caution must be given. Active imagination is a very powerful technique. It involves a voluntary descent into the unconscious, and the unconscious contains not only treasures, but also monsters. For a person with a strong, healthy, and well-grounded ego, this journey is transformative. But for a person with a very fragile ego or a predisposition to psychosis, deliberately blurring the line between the inner and outer worlds can be dangerous. It can lead to being overwhelmed by unconscious contents. Jung himself was very careful about who he recommended this practice to. Therefore, it is highly advisable to undertake this work, especially in the beginning, with the guidance of a trained Jungian analyst or a therapist experienced in depth psychology. They can provide a safe, alchemical vessel for the work, and act as a guide and an anchor as you navigate these deep waters. If you are currently in a state of extreme emotional crisis or feel psychologically unstable, it is better to focus on more grounding practices first. This is not a technique to be taken lightly. It requires respect, courage, and a stable psychic foundation. So how does one begin? The journey of active imagination always starts with a piece of unconscious material, a starting point. This is the thread you will pull on to enter the labyrinth of the psyche. There are several places you can find this thread. The most common starting point is a dream image. If you have a particularly vivid, emotional, or recurring dream, you can choose a single, powerful image from it, a strange animal, a mysterious figure, a specific object, to be your point of focus. Another excellent starting point is a strong, persistent mood. If you are feeling consumed by a mood, a heavy sadness, a simmering anger, a vague anxiety, you can close your eyes and ask the mood, if you had a shape, what would you look like? And then work with the image that arises. You can also start with a spontaneous fantasy or daydream. If you find your mind repeatedly drifting to a particular scene or story, you can consciously decide to enter that story and see where it leads. Finally, you can even begin with a physical sensation. A knot in your stomach, a tension in your shoulders. You can focus on that sensation and allow your imagination to give it a voice, a shape, and a personality. The key is to choose a starting point that has an energetic charge for you, something that feels alive and numinous. This is the door the unconscious has already opened for you. Once you have your starting point, the next step is to create the container and enter the right state of mind. Find a time and place where you will not be disturbed. This is a sacred practice, so treat it with respect. Turn off your phone. Sit in a comfortable chair or lie down. The goal is to relax your body completely, but to keep your mind alert and awake. Take a few deep breaths to quiet the chatter of your everyday thoughts. Close your eyes. Now, bring your chosen starting point, the dream image, the mood figure, into your mind's eye. Hold it there gently, without trying to analyze it or change it. Your task is simply to observe it with focused attention. You are creating a mental stage, and you are setting the intention to allow whatever happens on that stage to unfold without judgment. Your attitude should be one of receptive curiosity. You are on the threshold of a different world. You are waiting for the image to come to life. This may take patience. At first, nothing may happen. Just stay with it. Hold the image. Hold the intention. You are waiting for the unconscious to respond to your conscious invitation. This is the heart of the practice, the dialogue. As you hold the image in your mind's eye, allow it to animate. Let it begin to move, to change, or to speak all on its own. A snake from a dream might begin to slither. A dark fog of a mood might begin to coalesce into a figure. Your job is to simply watch. Then comes the crucial step of conscious participation. You, from the perspective of your ego, must enter the scene, and you must speak. For example, if the snake begins to move, you might ask it, aloud or in your mind, where are you going? If a figure appears, you might ask, who are you? Or, what do you want from me? Then you must listen for the answer. The answer might come as words, as a feeling, or as another symbolic image. The key is to treat it as a real conversation. Respond to the answer, ask another question, share your own feelings. That makes me feel afraid. Or, I don't understand what you mean. You are engaging in a real relationship with this inner figure. You might follow the figure through a strange landscape. You might be offered a gift or given a task. The possibilities are endless. The entire time you must maintain a dual awareness. You know you are sitting safely in your room, and you are fully participating in this inner drama as if it were real. A vital part of the dialogue is what Jung called the ethical confrontation. This is what separates active imagination from just being passively swept away by a fantasy. Your ego must not be a doormat. It must hold its own ground and represent your conscious values and moral standpoint. The figures of the unconscious are not always benevolent guides. They can be tricky, demanding, or even malevolent. They represent raw, archetypal energies, which are beyond human morality. Therefore, you must engage with them ethically. If an inner figure tells you to do something that violates your conscious moral code, it is your responsibility to refuse. You must argue with it. You must say, "No, I will not do that, and here is why." This is not an act of repression. It is an act of conscious relationship. It is a dialogue between two powerful realities: the reality of your conscious, ethical personality and the reality of the autonomous, amoral unconscious. This confrontation is what forges a true and resilient connection between them. It forces the unconscious to reckon with your conscious values, and it forces your conscious values to be tested against the raw power of the unconscious. This ethical struggle strengthens the ego, making it a worthy partner for the self, rather than a passive victim of the psyche's powerful currents. Once the active imagination session feels complete, it may last 5 minutes or an hour. You will often feel a natural sense of resolution or exhaustion. The final step is to ground the experience. The journey into the inner world must be connected back to your life in the outer world. The primary way to do this is to record what happened. Immediately after the session, while the memory is fresh, write down the entire dialogue, all the images, and all the feelings you experienced, in as much detail as possible. This act of writing does two things. First, it honors the experience. It tells your unconscious that you are taking its messages seriously. This encourages it to communicate more in the future. Second, it helps you to consciously understand and integrate what happened. As you write, you may see connections and insights you missed during the experience itself. Another powerful way to ground the experience is through creative expression. Paint the central image. Sculpt the figure you met out of clay. Compose a piece of music that captures the mood. Giving the inner experience a physical form in the outer world is a profound act of integration. It makes the experience tangible and real. This record, whether written or artistic, becomes a sacred text, a page from your own personal red book, something you can return to again and again for deeper reflection and guidance. In the end, active imagination is not a quick fix or a simple trick. It is a lifelong practice. It is the art of building and maintaining a conscious, dynamic, and respectful relationship with the vast mystery of your own unconscious. It is a path that requires immense courage, patience, and humility. But the rewards are immeasurable. Through this sacred dialogue, the ego is transformed. It moves from being a lonely, anxious ruler of a small island to being a courageous explorer of a vast and magnificent inner continent. You learn to access the deep wisdom, the boundless creativity, and the profound healing power that lies within your own soul. You are no longer cut off from your own depths. You begin to live a life guided not just by your conscious intentions, but by a collaborative partnership with the wise and eternal self. You learn to listen to the story your soul is trying to tell, and you find the courage to live it. This is the ultimate goal of Jung's work. An active imagination is the key that unlocks the door. Thank you for joining us on this deep exploration. If this guide to active imagination has been helpful, please show your support by liking this video, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next journey into the depths of the human psyche.